kind of chatting ever since, and just both spend far too much of our time on this game that we love. So Tari, we can't wait to get to your presentation. And folks, if you have any questions, just go into the Q&A. I will interject them as there's opportune moments. But the stage is yours, Tari.
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and to speak with everyone. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a conversationalist, so my presentation will likely just be, kind of me giving an overview, and then we can talk and just chat, questions back and forth. But again, thank you for having me. So for those that I have not yet gotten to meet, my name is Tari Kandamiri. I am 23, and for the past 8, maybe 9, I kind of lose track of the math a little bit, 9 years-ish, I have been tweeting and Instagramming as official Laxgirl. And it's such a crazy journey to even say that and to think it through, because, in 2012, I started this lacrosse Twitter, because someone said they didn't want to see all my Facebook posts about lacrosse and they were tired of seeing them, so they were saying, oh, why don't you just talk about something else? So fine, I'll just make a Twitter account, no one's gonna know it's me, and I don't care, whatever, I'm just gonna make it and tweet about the game. And then it kind of blew up from there, and I'll talk a little bit about that throughout. But yeah, so that was me in high school, and I did a really fun shoot for US Lacrosse magazine. That was awesome, and that was kind of the first time people got to meet me and see my face, and that was fun to do. And then on the right is just my tweeting style, which I talk about a little bit more later. Is I love tweeting fun things about the game. So I'm complaining about defenders that just stick to you when you're playing, but really I love the game and I love talking about it, and I'm so thankful I've gotten to be part of a community that is really ingrained in the game. So as I mentioned, I started the game, started playing in high school, but I was born in Zimbabwe in 1996. So my whole family is there. My immediate family is here. And then I moved to Maryland in 2004, and I played field hockey in high school. I played that in the fall. And then my best friend at the time was like, oh, I'm playing lacrosse. You should come and you should see what we do. I'm like, lacrosse, what is that? I've never heard of that in my life. Whatever, I'll show up. Yeah, sure, we'll do it. Because I wanted to stay fit for field hockey season. And so showed up in the spring, had never held a stick in my life, and just absolutely fell in love with it. I was a field hockey goalie, so I think being able to run around and not feel like Optimus Prime, Bionic Man, was a welcome change. And I just fell in love with the game. And in 2012, I think it was my sophomore season maybe of high school, I'd always say, oh, we have a game today and I'm so excited to play and I can't wait to play against this person and blah blah blah. And I remember someone commenting and saying, you always talk about lacrosse and always talk about your school and stuff, why can't you talk about something else? And so I was embarrassed, fine, I'm gonna start a Twitter account just for lacrosse. No one's gonna know it's me. I'm just gonna talk about the game as much as I want, and I don't care what anyone says. And I never looked back. I remember getting so excited and happy because I had 100 followers, and telling my mom, Mom, look, I have 100 people that follow me. And I don't think she knew anything about what that meant at the time. It was okay, what is Twitter? What are you doing? But to me, that was so exciting because I had other friends that were really into the game that wanted to talk about it all the time and wanted to hear what I had to say and hear about my favorite players, which to me was really exciting. So what do I tweet about? And, when you've been on social media for a long time, you kind of, at least from what I've seen, ebb and flow. You go from, the basic whatever you're tweeting about when you first created your account into really moving into kind of find your niche a little bit. When I started my account, I would tweet about how much I loved Rob Pennell and he was my favorite player, and I couldn't wait to meet him someday, and I wanted his autograph, and I love my team, I love lacrosse, I love yellow Gatorade, and it was just all my favorite things, right? That's high school, sophomore, junior, senior me, that's what I wanted to tweet about. But I've been really lucky, I think, as I've grown and progressed as a person, and I've gone to college, I've studied, I've done all these different things. The content of my account has also shifted and grown with me, and more now than ever, my focus is really, pushing for more women's lacrosse representation in televised media, female empowerment through sports, lessening barriers to entry for the game. So for that first point, one of the things that I'll take credit for, honestly, is the Under Armour All-America Girls game. In the earlier years of the 2010s, they didn't televise. They televised the guys' game and they played the girls' game on YouTube. And I remember sitting there and thinking, like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would this just be on YouTube when it can be on TV just like the guys? And so me and some other people really rallied and showed how much we loved watching that game and, wanted that to be something that happened. And I think that surge and the surge from players and parents of really pushing for that change, ended up getting the game on TV, which is awesome. And it's so fun to watch. And, it's a really great way to support those athletes is tuning in and supporting both the boys and the girls as they play in that great, fantastic showcase game.
That's such a cool, oh, sorry. I was going to say, that's such a cool element of it, because the one thing I know, the answer that always comes when executives or whoever's organizing broadcasting things, and it says, why are there more women's sports than men's sport, or more men's sports than women's sports, Joan? And the answer is always, well, people want to see the men's sports, which in the past, I don't know, that may have been true in the past when women were given the opportunity to play. I think before women got equal opportunities to play, there wasn't the demand to see them because there weren't the sports to watch. Mm-hmm. But as women are given a chance to play, people want to see it. But until the people making the decisions know that,
right,
then it's not going to happen. So the best way to do it, it seems to me, is not to just complain about it, but to go and activate, mm-hmm. get people involved and tell them, hey, here's 500 people I know that want to see this game.
Yeah,
and, it's pretty cool to see that happen, that working.
Absolutely, exactly, and even more so in like recent, the past couple of weeks, ESPNU has been playing, or ESPN has been playing on ESPNU past championship games and past games from this last season, and then a bunch of seasons before then. And the first time there was maybe one televised women's game, and everyone's like, yo, like, where are the women's games? We want to watch them. Like, we're going to watch the guys' games. We want to watch the women's ones as well. And then this past batch of games, like, we had a whole day of just women's championships. And so I think now more than ever, people are really listening. They're watching what we say on these social media networks, and they're interested in hearing what we want to see. And I think consumers have a lot more control than we previously thought, or maybe than we previously had. And now more than ever is like such a great time to really voice and talk about what we want to see, because it is important and people are watching. And I'll always try to kindly, softly nudge to say, I want to see X, Y, Z, but there are people out there listening. And and I think that plays into female empowerment through sports. I try to retweet and tweet about and support anything that is really integral to uplifting women in athletics, or any organization really that's uplifting athletes. I think of organizations such as the One Left Foundation, which, has such an important mission, such an important cause. I got to participate in one of their workshops and just have loved, being able to use my social media to support them and share their message whenever I can. And then lessen the barriers to entry for the game. A lot of my tweets are focused on, like I said, organizations that are providing opportunities for players, any free content that I can find for players to learn from. I learned a lot through watching. I watched tons of film on YouTube, on ESPN, wherever I could find anything. And I always try to share that with others. So yeah, definitely more robust topics in the 8 to 9 years that I've been on Twitter, but I keep it fun. It's just as fun as it was before. And I'm sure people are like, oh, like every time I rant, I'm sure someone's like, here she goes again with another rant. And I can't help it. I just love it. They gave me the characters. I have to use them. I have to tweet. That's just what I got to do.
And the one thing before you move on is I don't know if you didn't mention the number. I remember you mentioned, when you hit 100 followers and you're all excited and told your mom, and we've got 18.6 thousand followers now.
Right.
That's a lot of people paying attention to what you're saying. A lot of people who want to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I was just telling one of my friends, or maybe I think I was telling Amanda, Estera about this. I forget how many people follow me, because in my head, it's me and 100 of my closest friends, maybe even 15 of my closest friends. And I'll tweet something and then I'll be like, oh, like, well, okay, hopefully that doesn't bother anyone. Like, I didn't even think that one through. There have been a couple times where my tweets have maybe gotten me in hot water, but I always bounce back, and I try to be respectful. I try to use nice language when I tweet, but yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, there's this whole community on Lacrosse Twitter and Lacrosse Instagram, and both platforms as a whole that's really engaging, and we love talking about the game, talking to each other, sharing resources, and sharing our viewpoints. And I'm glad that there's 18,000 other people out there who love the game just as much as me, or maybe just love a good meme and like wanted to follow me to see some memes. So I'll take it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't pat myself on the back ever, so that's probably why I gloss over that number. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like I have some followers, but no, I'm very thankful that I've been able to build up those numbers and continue growing. So.
I thought it was funny when we met. We were introduced by some mutual friends, some folks down in Baltimore, and they're like, "Oh, this is Tari. She's a pretty big deal in lacrosse Twitter." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't know that." But and you were just like, "Oh, yeah, I don't know."
Yeah, no, I don't know. I tweet for fun. I love it. But no, and this kind of leads into the next thing we'll talk about, and it's where has the game taken me. I was going through some of my old tweets. I think as the championship games were being played, I was just looking through all my old tweets, and this picture here on the left is from one of the Tour Town Award ceremonies. That's me right there. That's Kayla Drainer, Taylor Cummings, Barbara Sullivan, tons of players that I look up to, which is just insane that I even had the opportunity to go attend the Tour Town ceremony. They have really good food, by the way. Whoever's listening, just know that. Love their food. And then in this picture, this is from last summer in Amsterdam with players from Thistle Lax. Thistle is a team based out of, I would say they're in Scotland, and it's just amazing that we followed each other on Instagram. These players and I followed each other on Instagram for years, never even thinking, oh, we're gonna meet, whatever. It was just, oh, like we all love lacrosse, and so we're based here, they're based there, different continents, whatever. And then to get to play against each other in Amsterdam, and then get to meet and talk about the game and talk about life, and ask them for recommendations if they've had any good food spots while they were visiting, things like that. It's just really a big part of my lacrosse journey, and the most, I think, important part of the Twitter and Instagram accounts to me are the connections that I've made. Meeting you, meeting Brad, meeting my favorite players, meeting other players from around the globe is so gratifying. And I think, if anything, the network and the connections and the friends I've made through lacrosse Twitter are the best thing that's ever happened or could happen from many of the social media networks that I'm part of. And with that, I've gotten to, I'm a U.S. Lacrosse Sankofa clinician. So for those, we travel to different areas where, they may not have lacrosse, or, demographics a little bit different than what the majority of lacrosse players have been thus far. And it's amazing to work with kids and introduce the game to them, because to them, there's no limits. Like, you'll see a player throw behind the back without even knowing that they're throwing it behind the back. It's just, they're just doing it. They're just doing the thing, and it's a thing that's happening, and it's lacrosse, and everyone's having fun, and we're learning how to play and catch and throw, and really growing the game. I've become a trainer. I volunteer with local organizations. I do, I've done virtual talks, different things like that. So I really wanted to highlight that. To me, the best part out of everything, every opportunity that I've had with the game, is just being able to meet not only my favorite players, but friends that I've made, and really, just kind of get to share the game with others. It's been the best part.
And what is Sankofa?
Sankofa is, so I don't know 100% like the full history of the word, but it is kind of based in African American history, and it was started, I believe it was Johnny Christmas and Chaz Woodson were the founders, or Chad Woodson founded the organization itself, and it was focused really on grassroots, getting lacrosse into African American communities and underprivileged, kind of underrepresented communities within the game.
Very cool, very cool. Because honestly, that's one thing that I've looked at with the game and thought we need to find ways. I haven't run across racism or anything in terms of keeping it a very white sport, but I think we just need to open up, like you said, lower the barriers, open up opportunities, and encourage people of all races and creeds, everything, to come and play. I mean,
right.
It seems strange that there aren't that people of color are disproportionately underrepresented in the sport. So I think that's very cool. I didn't know there was a program for that to try and get that kind of thing rolling. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure to be part of, and like you said, just trying to get the game in more places, get sticks in more hands, and have the game look a little bit more like what our country looks like, which is a really great melting pot of everyone and anyone. And I think even more so, one of the important things of my platform is showing okay, this is what I look like, and you don't have to look like this person or me or this other person to play the game. It can really be for anyone. And that's why I always try to share as much as I can. If someone, sends me something, if it's a video of them, showing off a stick trick, etc., like I want to continue representing that the game can be for everyone. And there's so many people involved already. And our goal is to make that even more so that there's more representation, and anyone who wants to play gets a chance to.
Excellent. That's exciting. I think it's a very cool directive. I don't know. Organization or whatever, the initiative. There you go.
Yeah, initiative. Perfect word.
Took me a while.
Yeah, and to kind of sum that up, what am I passionate about is, I'm passionate about using my platform to share anything related to the game, whether it's hot topics that are happening, think pieces, clips. I love like game clips. I'll record my computer when something awesome happens. Back when Vine was around, I would share so many Vines. All my Vines had so many retweets because we just could watch them over and over and over, and inspiring other athletes to keep playing. I think, I mentioned that I've really grown with my account, and this account was with me as I was tweeting about, going for varsity in high school, as I was tweeting about going into college and wanting to play. The best that I can do is just always, remind younger players and any player that, we're all chasing our goals, and as long as we're doing our best and doing what we can to put ourselves in the position to achieve our dreams, like odds are pretty likely we might, or we'll get closer. We can hold ourselves accountable and continue working hard. And I think my podcast that I also I'm trying to talk about more and more of the things I do. I just do so many things, but my podcast, I'm really trying to make that a focal point, especially for women within the game. I've interviewed so many great women within the game thus far that are really, making waves, whether it be on the field, owning businesses, being in media, to show that, the women's side of the game is just as strong, continuously growing, but just as strong as the men's side. And there are a lot of women out there doing really, really great things for the game of lacrosse. So if you see me tweet about shooting space, make sure you listen, because I've got some good stuff coming up too.
Excellent. And I definitely want to get to a couple of things at some point. I know you've got your presentation. I'm going to want to ask you about your box experience.
Yes.
You've been tweeting about that, and I'm very curious, very excited to hear about that. And also your new patent. You're gonna talk about that, right?
Definitely.
Okay, good. I figured you would. Just wanted to make sure. That's all I'm gonna say.
It's not in the slides, but we'll bring it back up.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, to wrap up my little presentation here, I think social media really is at its best when we're using it, again, to share resources. My friends have used it to share clinics that they were having with Taylor Cummings when she was coming to do a clinic in the area she hadn't been before, and that was awesome. A lot of organizations use it to raise money, use it to show progress of their athletes as they're growing, both in the classroom, on the field, using it to share instructions. So I think social media overall, and I know there's a whole session for it, so that's why I didn't focus too much on that, but there's really so many resources that have been shared and so many great things that are happening with social media. And, I'd be doing us a disservice if I didn't share about all the great things that are happening on social media, and how the community itself has really helped athletes, helped coaches, organizations raise awareness and find opportunities within the game. So those are all my slides. Make sure you follow me.
All right.
And I'll go back to my little about slide so that people can see. But yeah, happy to take any questions. Let me make sure I can actually see the questions.
So we just got word via Chaz Woodson that Sankofa comes from Ghana. It translates to "go back and get it."
See, thank you, Chaz. Thank you, Chaz. Chaz saves the day again.
So I want to talk about the box stuff for a bit, because you've been tweeting about that. You're down in Atlanta now, right? You've moved down there within the last year.
Yep.
And how did you start playing box, and what's it been like for you?
Yeah, so originally, my first exposure to box was I had the opportunity to go out to California and attend UX Box Blacks Nationals, which was amazing, and got to participate in a clinic, and it was awesome. I had never, I'd been to box games before, but I'd never put everything on. I'd never gotten to play, and so suddenly, I had all my equipment on and learning all the different shots and all the things. And, playing with girls from Minnesota that had never played field, but had always played box, which was amazing. Like that was just mind blowing to me and so cool to make even more connections and compare and contrast our experiences within our different, versions of the game. And back in Atlanta, we were supposed to have an indoor season with a women's teams, but it didn't work out. Not enough people signed up. And so I was like, well, I definitely want to play. So I need to like figure out something. And something in my mind, but I was like, I do have equipment. I think like I should be able to play box. I might just need a helmet, but I'll see. So I emailed them and I was like, hey, I want to sign up for this box league. Can I go ahead and sign up? And they're like, sure, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, cool, sign up, do my thing. And then they emailed me later and they're like, hey, did you mean to sign up for the women's league? Cause like that's canceled. But we saw you sign up for the men's box league. And I was like, no, like I meant to sign up for the men's league. Like that's exactly what I meant to do. And so I go on my first day, have all my stuff, got my pink water bottle, ready to roll. I show up and I'm sure they all just looked at me and were like, is she in the right place? Like, does anyone see that? Okay, whatever, just gonna let it happen. And yeah, put on all my stuff and introduce myself. And it's the coolest thing that I've ever done. I love playing. I think it felt a little bit better when I scored on those goalies because I just was like, yes, like I'm representing for the girls. And some girls from the high school teams would come and sit in the bleachers and cheer for me. And it was such a cool experience. I mean, definitely really scary. The first time I took a shot to the thigh was the worst. It hurt so bad. Never again. Always going to keep my head on the swivel so that does not happen ever again. But no, I mean, all the guys were really, really nice and never had an issue. Teammates were cool. I learned a lot. Just everyone was there to play and just wanted to play box. And hopefully next season I do well enough to get invited to their tournament team. That didn't happen this year, but I think they didn't know I was interested, but I'm going to make it obvious. Make it obvious. But
yeah, a couple of things that jump out at me from that is one is it was so much fun following as your experience as you played and just we've all had that head on the swivel moment. The first time you get really crunched when you get a little too focused on something other than your well-being. We've all had that. And the other one is, the funny thing is, because people can't tell from looking at you on the screen, but there are other women who would maybe fit in a bit more easily, but you're not the tallest woman.
No, I'm a good 5'3"-ish. If I stretch really well, about 135, 140-ish. So some of those guys were, I think, one of the biggest players we had, or tallest, maybe he was like 6'3", 6'4", definitely hitting the 250s. And anytime he shot, I would just get out of the way. Like there was no trying to play defense, and thankfully no one expected me to play defense on him. But yeah, no, I was probably not the most likely candidate to sign up, but heart made up for it. And thankfully I was safe, and had no injuries during the season. So it's all good.
Nice. And people feel free to send in questions on the Q&A.
Yeah.
I think there'll be a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, but I do want to touch on the patent. You mentioned that you were going to be patenting something, and we built the suspense up as a good social media user does, and eventually it came out. It seems like a pretty cool invention that you've come up with.
Thank you. Yeah. So, as much as I know about Twitter and maybe lacrosse and coding and all the other things, I don't know a lot about beauty products and buying beauty skincare stuff. And so it had been kind of a pain point that I had in the past of where I just would go into a store and had no idea what was happening, and no idea, all the labels had these crazy names and I didn't really understand what I needed to buy. And so I started about a year and a half-ish ago, working on a platform, kind of an app that helps suggest beauty products based on demographic information and data science. So using data science to kind of parse through a bunch of product data, reviews, ratings, and then match that up with user input based on what someone is shopping for. And so I was able to submit a patent for the algorithm that actually does kind of the parsing of data and the natural language processing of connecting what the user is submitting with what's in the database, and then matching that up and making sure that recommendations are strong, rating the strength of recommendations, and then providing those. So patenting an algorithm or a method was definitely not something that I ever saw in my future. And algorithms was not one of my favorite classes back in college. It was not one of my favorites, but all of that knowledge knowledge was super useful. And then, yeah, I was able to launch my platform on May 1st. So it's just been a really, really crazy month, but it's been amazing. And seeing people interact with it, seeing people use it, and reaching out to brands, being able to work with different influencers on the social media side. I really used all the knowledge that I have about social media and about, funny memes to tweet and ways to communicate with people and how to build communities to have about 400 followers now. So yeah, all of my knowledge that I've gained and the community that I've been able to build was instrumental in helping me not only get inspired to get moving and build that up, but also to launch.
Nice. And you may have explained this, and I just didn't. I'm not much of a beauty products guy, but my understanding from what you when you launched it and announced was that basically it looks at skin type. Like, I know I've heard of the tea, the oily tea, and different things. So skin type, skin tone, and various factors, and you put all that in, and it, like you said, the algorithm says this product and this product and this product will work for you.
Yep, exactly. So it takes in skin type, skin tone, age, and then your needs. And the needs are really where the natural language processing comes in, because obviously, we have different ways that we represent things. So, hyperpigmentation may be written 10 different times or whatever, oily skin or dry skin or whatever the input is. It takes all of that input in and then is able to just provide a succinct list of recommendations. So instead of, reading through hundreds of reviews every single time you want to shop for something, you can just use this platform under 30 seconds, get recommendations, and then, be on your way.
That's pretty cool.
I definitely did it with me in mind, but also other people that had no idea what they were doing in mind, and even people that do. As I built it, I talked about progression of things. The more feedback I got, the more I was like, oh, okay, well, people that do know what they're doing might also want to use this. So I wanted to really make it something that anyone can use, whether they are familiar with shopping for beauty products or not. So it's universal.
Cool. The other part of your journey, you talked about you're playing the game, and you've kind of taken on this other side, like you talked about being a clinician and being a trainer and things. And I'm curious how the balance is for you now. How much are you still playing? I know you tour. You went on the England tour, right, or the Europe tour with the US group.
Yeah, so we're in Amsterdam and other surrounding cities. So yeah, I try to stay as involved as I can. It's really rough with everything that's going on here. Hope everyone is safe and sound. We're gearing up for spring season. One of my best friends, Steph Schenkel, who was going to be on my team, and my other best friend, Alex Powers, was going to be on the team. But no, it's really cool. I mean, there's a lot of lacrosse happening in Atlanta. Sadly, they took the Blaze away from me, but we still have the Swarm, and we have different leagues that are happening all the time. So yeah, that's always a great way to stay involved. And then my trips, the summer trips to Europe, I go to Europe for about 10 to 12-ish days, and just kind of hop around and play with groups that are really, really awesome and fun to be around. And it's just been amazing. So I definitely try to stay involved. And I think I'm so lucky that I have my Twitter and my Instagram and different ways that I can stay involved. And I think one of the things that I've been able to show with my social media is that you don't always need to be the number one player to be someone that is involved and in love with the game, and there are so many other people that are great examples of this as well. If you're passionate about the game and you just love talking about it and you love being around it, there's a place for you, and really there's a place in lacrosse for everyone. So hopefully that answered your question. I know I kind of went on a tangent, but
no, it did.
Stay involved, and my social media is a big part of how I do that.
Yeah, still playing. That's the thing. You're still doing all the other things. And I mean, a tangent to that, I guess, is you moved to Atlanta for a new work opportunity, which I'm getting the impression has been quite busy. And you've been launching the product. You've been launching the algorithm. So there's a lot going on for you, and yet you seem to have maintained your presence on social media.
I mean, it's so crazy. Like I make the joke that I do 600 things at once, but I think I actually probably do 600 things at once. I'm always doing something. But lacrosse has always been like my thing that I just is my constant. Like I don't know how to. It's my activity, but it's also just like my everyday. Like every single day, I'm talking to people in the game. I'm tweeting about the game, and it's really ingrained in me. My friends are talking about it. So I think lacrosse is just a nice break from work. There's no no one's rating my tweets and no one's, judging my tweets for promotion. It's just me. I get to be myself and I get to enjoy conversing with other people. So maybe that's what's made it so constant in my life. And I fight to keep it that way. And hopefully be back on the field soon.
In terms of balance in life, I guess I'm always curious because I do a lot of different things as well, with writing and announcing and editing and the podcast and my fiance and I have a hair salon that she does more of, but I'm involved, and we're opening a wedding venue. Like, we've got a lot of stuff that we're doing. We also do a music podcast, Carrie Jane and I do together. So there's a lot, and I find one of the things that I have to make sure I do is focus on what I'm doing right now and not do 600 things at once, even though you can there are times you can multitask, but there are times you really have to focus on the one task at hand. And how do you manage that balance?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. My brain usually at most times is doing 10 other things, or like is listing all the other things I do. And I think that's part of why I love lacrosse so much. Like, I'm here, I'm doing the summit, we're talking lacrosse, and I love it. And that's exactly all I want to be doing. So I think now I've learned over the past year and a half that I've been working, how better to manage my time so I can be really present. So that if I'm with my friends, I'm with my friends and I'm focused on that and we're having fun. And, if I'm on the field, I'm on the field, not thinking about things that are happening elsewhere. If I'm at work and I focus on work. And I think with my business, especially, that's really important, is I'm thinking through those things as well, of like, okay, well, I'm working 8 to 10 hours a day, and I'm not always going to have time to pivot and do something else. And so delegation is also a big thing. If, I'm working with analysts, that I'm managing, then I'm making sure I'm allocating work to them so that we can all kind of focus on the work that needs to be done. So I think overall, just being able to using, what I used when I first started playing sports, of like, okay, well, practice at this time, so I have to do homework at this time, and then I got to eat, and I got to do this. And that's kind of how I manage my time, is with my calendar. It's like, well, okay, got to wake up at 8, and then I got to send these emails, and I got to make this Twitter post, email this brand, and all of that stuff. And also making sure I take time to myself. Historically, I have not been the best person for that. I do not take a lot of breaks, but I'm realizing more and more how important that is, and how much our bodies need time to just relax. And if it's me sitting on the couch watching Criminal Minds and all 25 episodes in season 5, then so be it. But just really making sure I delegate time to myself as well, to make sure I don't go crazy, and that allows my mind to be better focused on one thing at a time.
And time to yourself, including time on relationships with family, friends, everything, right? Because it's so hard right now to do. I mean, Carrie and I found we've been quite lucky because we moved just before everything hit with the pandemic, like literally the day before things started to close down out here to Buckhorn. And we've been pretty fortunate because we have each other and we're able to enjoy the time together. But we haven't been able to see our family. We haven't been able to see our friends a lot. We've had a friend or two come over and stay. Luckily we have a big deck on the back of the house, so they stay on one side, we're on the other side, and we talk. It's kind of crazy because we've got this place that we want to share with everyone, and it must be. Sorry, I just had a question that I'll get to in a sec. But the big challenge I think now is maintaining sanity and sense. Like you obviously have a lot of energy, and you've always struck me as a really positive, driven, up-tempo person. But I wonder, like, how you're making out in the pandemic and dealing with everything.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's crazy. Like, there's no way to really put it. I'm lucky that in Atlanta I am with my roommate, so we have at least each other. I just know that there's always someone there. If I get lonely, I'm like, okay, well, at least we have each other. Like, everything's okay. And FaceTiming my mom all the time. Everyone, knows my mom is my best friend pretty much. So FaceTiming her, just trying to stay in touch. Group chats, the group chats that are always going on and off. Before I'd be like, oh, why are they posting 20 times in 5 minutes? But now it's like, oh gosh, like, I'm so glad that that's happening, because that means everyone is okay and like we're all doing well and we have things to talk about. But it is hard. Mother's Day happened and I wanted to go to Maryland so bad. I wanted to fly or drive or whatever, the 15-hour drive that it would have taken me. But having to know, okay, like, there's people at home and you're here and you got to be safe, you got to be smart. So Yeah, I think it's tough, but I'm thankful for technology that's kept us all in the loop together. And just glad to have my health, and glad my family and friends are healthy, and I know I'll see them soon. So trying to stay positive. Definitely not every day. There are some days when I wake up and I'm like, there's a big cloud over me and it's gray and it doesn't like anyone. But then usually it just kind of goes away and everything is better. So yeah.
I mean, I deal with the same days. I've had, issues with depression in the past, well, present, and it's always to me like I haven't really been asking people that during the summit. I mean, how are you making out just during the summit, just dealing with things, and it kind of occurred to me that we all should ask each other that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So we have a question from Brad about who your favorite Criminal Minds character is, and he actually hazarded a guess. I asked if a certain person is, but I'm gonna let you just say who your favorite is. And we'll see.
That's so funny. Okay. Okay. So this is kind of an odd one because I feel like she's not always the audience favorite, but for some reason, well, it's either Garcia or JJ. Garcia because eccentric, lots of color, very like positive, always there for her team, and she's always on her computer typing away, which is basically.
Oh, she's the one with that's back in
the cool hair. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
And then JJ because she is so like. I feel like she's just always together and always there for her team and like provides the help when they need it. So yeah, either one of them. But I'm curious to hear what he said.
He was wondering if Spencer was your. I feel like Spencer is most people's. Spencer Reeve, right? I honestly don't know the show that well, but I do know Spencer is a pretty cool math guy.
Yeah, he's awesome, and he's like really analytical. So I can definitely I see why. And I don't know, maybe it's just recent episodes that have influenced why those two are my favorites right now. But maybe overarching Spencer because he is very analytical.
I actually saw some show a while ago, in our pandemic watching, which has been a little more than usual. And we saw a show and we're like, who is that guy? I know that actor. And it was Spencer. Yeah. It was Spencer. And the funny thing is, it's a show from like 10 years ago. He looks the exact same.
Yeah.
He still looks better.
He hasn't changed very much.
It's crazy.
But yeah, no, pandemic showtime is the best. Just watching every show online.
Now, a little bit more serious question we've had was, what do you think we can do to better bridge gaps? We touched on it earlier with the with trying to make opportunities for people of color, for people of communities that aren't heavily involved. What can we do to bridge gaps better and make those opportunities happen, and not just to make them happen, make them available, but make them visible so people see that they're there and can take advantage.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's kind of tough. There's so many components to it because the stick question, right? I think a lot of times the discussion is always like, oh, sticks are so expensive, equipment is expensive, and that can be tough. And then thankfully there are programs. US Lacrosse has First Stick program, and other organizations have programs that provide equipment to players. And the second step is really getting it into the communities, but I think retention is really the big thing. So, we've gone into communities, we've introduced lacrosse. How do we make sure that players continue to be interested? What can we as trainers, as coaches, as providers of, different services of the game, make sure communities are equipped to continue sustaining lacrosse programs? And I don't think there's ever a perfect answer, but I think that is kind of what we're pivoting more and more towards is one, retention, making sure players are able to continue playing, making sure club dues, team dues, et cetera, are manageable, and making sure players feel comfortable within the team. Whether it's, if they're the only person of color on their team, training coaches to be able to speak to that and be able to make sure that every player feels included no matter what their background is, and really just creating environments within the game that retain players of all backgrounds and making sure that players across the board feel comfortable. So yeah, I think cost is something that is continuously addressed more and more, and clinics are happening more and more. Great organizations, Harlem Lacrosse, City Lax, different organizations that are able to really retain strong programs that continuously have players playing the game, but really identifying other ways and other pockets where programs like that can be built and thrive, and making sure that they're sustained throughout the years.
When you talked about having, helping coaches to deal with if there's one person of color on the team, making sure that it's comfortable for them, and it's such a challenge for a coach, for an organization too, because you want to treat everyone equally, and yet to me, remembering that equal doesn't always mean the same.
Yeah.
So recognizing that if someone, whether they're of color or not, whatever their circumstance, if
Hmm.
they have a different story they're bringing to
Yep.
practice, to games, that
Yep.
you need to be prepared to deal with that. And it's
Absolutely.
it's already, we're putting a lot on coaches' plates because we need more coaches, we need more officials, we need more everything. But I think it is so important, right, to be able to address that for everyone, and not to single someone out, but just to make sure that everyone's feeling like they've got their way to play and be comfortable and safe.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we touched on this a little bit at I think it was either the Urban Lacrosse Alliance conference or maybe the West Regional Conference, but there was a panel about, being Black in lacrosse. And one of the things that we talked about was, what can coaches do for their players of color to like ensure that they feel comfortable, because sometimes I think the default is for coaches to just not say anything about it and just be like, oh, I'm sure it's fine. Like everyone looks like they're having fun and they're all friends. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, that is true, but really checking in with your players and even without checking in, at least making an effort to say, this team is multicultural or this team is multiracial, or, no matter what, like this is a team that we want everyone to feel like they're an important core part of, and no one should ever feel singled out. And if that does happen, let me know. Like coaches need to actively put that out there and not
Oh
just
yeah.
assume like, oh, if something's wrong, a player will come up and talk to me about it. It's more so understanding that not every player is going to be comfortable coming up to you, but at least if they know that they can come up to you and they know that you're trying to build a community that is open and accepting for every player, that is much more, I think, proactive than just waiting to react if something does happen down the line.
Excellent. I love that approach. Um, there was one other thing I was saying. Oh, the other thing in this area I was thinking about is how important role models are. Because, like you said, when you're looking at it, you're thinking, oh, are there people that look like me playing? And that's in every sport, in every job, and everything. Are there people that look at me like me, whether it's women who don't have opportunities or people of color or whatever it is?
Right.
And I think of people like you and of Chaz Woodson that we brought up earlier, and Trevor Baptiste. The NLL has really pushed him as a not a spokesperson, but as one of the people they've been kind of identifying as someone who can get out and they can present as. And I think it's mostly, I think, because one, he's in Philadelphia, so he's handy. The offices are there,
Right there. Yeah.
and the other thing is he's just so charismatic
Mhm.
and articulate, and that's not always the expectation for athletes, that they're
Mhm.
going to be as smoothly spoken as he is. So,
Right.
and then you throw in the fact that he's a person of color, and it just kind of adds to what they can do with his presence.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, yeah, going back to my start in the game. So one of my favorite players ever in the world is Taylor Thornton. And I say this all the time, and I'm sure she'll hear about this and be like, "Oh, Tari." But when I started playing, I would come home after practice, and usually we have Big Ten Network and all the other channels, but Big Ten Network would always play, women's lacrosse. Like always has consistently played tons of women's games, and I turn on the TV and they're Northwestern's playing Maryland or whoever, and there's this black girl, her name is Taylor. My name starts with T. She's number 9. I'm number 9. And I would just see her like whizzing on the field, doing all these amazing things. And I was like, whoa, like that's who I want to be. Like I want to be just like her. And so I think that was kind of my first true lacrosse role model, was someone that looked like me and who I wanted to emulate. And so it is really important. And as much as I would love to, I do like to point out, not every role model is going to look like you. Like
Yeah.
some of my role models don't look like me. Michelle Tumla doesn't look like me. Trevor Baptiste doesn't look like me. Like there's all these different components that play into being a role model, but it is super awesome to have more and more people of color in all these different aspects and different sports and different things that go on in the world as role models, and at times more on the forefront, because that will help to bring more players to the game. I think, I'm sure, when I've gone to Oakland or to Detroit, when young Black girls have seen me and seen me play lacrosse and seen me, do a stick trick, like I'm sure they maybe feel even more excited to have me as a coach because I look like them. And they can see me and say, oh, okay, like I can do that. If she's doing it, like I definitely can do it. So definitely important and great that there's more role models coming up in the game.
Um, we need to get a shameless plug in for Chaz Woodson, who will be part of the Global Lacrosse Summit on Friday. We've been speaking about him, and I forgot that his webinar hasn't even occurred yet. So Friday evening, make sure you check it out, along with all the other great speakers coming for the final 4 days, Thursday, Friday, 3 more days of the summit. It's been quite an experience. It's very exciting that it's all happening. We're really thrilled that you're a part of it. Now, we have a great question from Emily Hiltz, who lists herself as a Mimico Peterborough person. I really think of her as a Peterborough person because she's the daughter of a good friend of mine, a fellow borough boy, who Joey Hiltz, who was one of the, who was a great pro player and senior player. And Emily has played a ton. She played for Trent University, and she's been an official for years, and she's very involved in the game, as the whole family is. And she's pointing out, you've spoken about your love for social media. And she's saying in sport, it's a pretty long question, but it is interesting. They're recently in sport, you see it. We've seen a lot of discourse around players, coaches, and other team personnel using their social media status or presence to promote various socio-political platforms and messages. She's seen it mostly positive, she thinks, sometimes negative, but coming from the professional lacrosse community, a lot of engagement in political or social political issues. Whereas a lot of professional sports, players are either suggested that they don't really get into that, or flat out told not to get into it. And she's wondering about your thoughts on that. Is there a place for the discourse? And it's interesting that I would add that, Chris Long is a great, I think, social activist. It just seems like a very cool guy. And he was always pretty outspoken, but since he's retired, he's really kind of taken off. He's got more time. He's not having to train all the time. But there are guys, and it actually brings up, I think, kind of a pre-social media thing where Michael Jordan was, this international major icon, and he did take some backlash for being basically apolitical. The famous quote, "Republicans buy sneakers too," which he may or may not, he said it, but it was out of context, whatever. But, it's always a question. Should you just shut up and play, or should you use your platform?
Yeah, definitely. So, no, that's a wonderful question, Emily. Thank you for that. And, don't know how much everyone knows about what's happening in the US right now, but I mean, we've had 2 very brutal murders that were caught on video in the past month and a half, or they happened, one of them happened previously, but the video was released more recently, and one of them just happened recently. And, it's tough to phrase this, and maybe this is a little of a tough love because I've also shown this on my social media, but I almost judge someone for not saying anything over them saying something, right? Like, how can these people with big platforms, and I tweeted about this, how can people with big platforms sit there, whether they're black, white, no matter your background, and you see someone die at the hands of police brutality or die at the hands of people that obviously targeted them for their race and not speak? It's been amazing to see, people who in the past were fairly apolitical or didn't really speak up very often, come out of wherever they were and voice their opinions. And thankfully, they've really been sharing great resources that help others understand the importance of speaking up about these issues. Because at the end of the day, if people without people with big platforms don't speak up, these are things that are just going to keep happening, right? Like, more videos are going to come out, or maybe more people will die at the hands of police brutality or at the hands of racism and all these different things, and it'll just be brushed under the rug as it has in the past. So I personally think that people should use their platforms, because more than ever, it is so important for everyone to know how to either be an ally or a resource. My white friends were asking, what can I do as an ally? What can I do to help? And my thing is, share the resources that are out there to help other people understand why this is so important, why this is no longer, maybe he was doing something and something happened. Why? It's just like, there needs to be no questions in the background. It's just, everyone needs to be sharing resources to help everyone else understand. And at times, if someone doesn't want to necessarily take a stance, that can just be what they do. They can just share. They can just share what the NAACP is saying about the issue and not share anything about their thoughts on, police brutality, et cetera. But it's been amazing today. A lot of lacrosse players have spoken up, and a lot of athletes have spoken up. And I think the world is kind of waking up and realizing that there is a lot going on. And the best we can do is just all share resources, whether or not, we have certain stances. So I definitely will continue to maybe judge people who don't use their platform to raise awareness for different things that are happening. But that's just who I am as a person. I'll never wag my finger at someone and say, why aren't you sharing? But I'll always, question and say, I'd love for so-and-so, to share, because I know people are listening to them. So it's tough. It's difficult, but I think it's a personal choice people have to make of, what do I want to do with my platform? What am I passionate about using my voice for? And that's a decision that they'll have to make for themselves. And hopefully they don't face any backlash, because, no one wants to face backlash for sharing or not sharing. But I think with that said, we also have to prepare for people to share their political opinions that maybe aren't super popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's happened within the lacrosse community as well, and with other athletes. And that's just, it's, that's how it is, right? We want people to share the good. Well, the bad's also going to come out. And I choose to focus on sharing things that make an impact, and kind of shrugging, ignoring the other stuff. So yeah, all that to say, there's a lot going on, but the best we can do is share resources and ask for anyone with a platform to share those resources and help spread the word.
Have you ever had people on your Twitter or other things say, stick to lacrosse?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, one of them was so silly. I think it was in like 2016 or some long time ago. And like I said, my Twitter, I'm sure I had like 10,000 followers or something, but it's just always been, my place that I just write about things, and I think that's going through a breakup, and it was like silly, and I was so sad about it. And I tweeted about it, and someone was like, I follow you for lacrosse. I don't follow you for this. I was like, I'm literally in my bed crying, eating Nutella. Like, please leave me alone. It was a weird, I was like, I'm sorry that I don't want to tweet about lacrosse today because I am sad. But no, and even with, presidential candidates and politics and women's rights and women's march and all these things, there are comments here and there, people that are like, well, I follow you for lacrosse content. And I'm like, okay, well then just unfollow me. Like, sorry, what? Not even sorry. Like, just do what you need to do, but I'm gonna do what I need to do. But yeah, to those people, I just say, whatever, like, if you don't like it, okay.
I think one of my kind of role models in sports writing has been Peter King. He used to write for SI.com and did the Monday Morning Quarterback, and then he's now with he does Football Morning in America for NBC Sports, I think. And he often guesses. He always puts he's put his family stuff and different things and some political stuff into his column. And every once in a while, somebody calls him out and says, I've had enough. I'm not going to read you anymore because you talked about the president, or you talked about this, or you talked about that. And he always says, hey, my column this week was 12,700 words, and 230 of them were about gun violence or were about this. You can skip over that part. Like, feel free. I won't be hurt if you skip over that part.
Exactly.
And if you don't want to read, I'm sorry. Thank you for the time you have for it. So I kind of feel the same way. Like, I'm not just a lacrosse announcer and sports writer. You're not just the official Laxgirl,
right?
and so I don't know. I think that's, and I don't know how you don't react to. I actually just found out about George Floyd this afternoon, a little while before I was out doing some things today, actually delivering food, and I wasn't on any media, and I just heard about it, and honestly, I had to kind of compose myself before we did this because I was in tears. Just seeing what happened and how sickening it is. So
yeah, and I think too, for me, like, sometimes I just want to say, how can you expect me, a Black woman living in the South, living in the United States, to not say something? Like, but again, it just needs to be everyone saying something. So I am thankful that our game has allies. Greg Grenley and Paul Rabels posted. I think Jared Bernhardt or Jake Bernhardt posted. So many different athletes within our game have shared their thoughts, and Taylor Cummings and so many people. So it's been good. So
we are going to get back to lacrosse. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I'm just saying, I'm thankful that we're rallying together, because that's what's important during this time.
Yeah, we are going to get back to lacrosse to wrap up. We got a few minutes to go, and we've had a request for you to name your favorite player from the following leagues. And one caveat: Rob Cannell is not eligible for any of these votes, right? So you can't just go to your go-to. Right. Let's start with the National Lacrosse League.
Oh, National Lacrosse League. Okay. It's kind of a tough one. I think Mark Matthews, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark Matthews, or yeah, we'll go with Mark Matthews.
I was anticipating a Swarm player.
I know, but so I like to think in my head that I'm very big and tall, and I like how he plays and the stick skills and the wondrous magic. I saw him play when he was with the Blades, but no, I always enjoy seeing the highlight videos that he has because I think it's always cool to watch.
He's something else.
Yeah.
Premier Lacrosse League.
Oh, Premier Lacrosse League. Oh gosh, this one's tough. I will not pick the mascot just because it's a cute mascot. This is tough. Like I'm thinking, I'm like all of that. I think Scott Ratliff. Just I really enjoy the content that he posts on social media. Marcus Holman, great player. Parable because he started the league. I just had one that no, and I think maybe Jules is like an easy option to pick, but I think his story and his growth and his progression, I didn't know of him when he was at Rutgers, and sad that I didn't, wasn't really paying as much close attention back then, but it's been amazing to see someone break into this league and then make a name for themselves and build their social media following, build their name on the field and become basically a household name. Like, I don't think you can say PLL without associating him with the league because he's just one of the faces of the league and someone that everyone knows now. So definitely like a really inspiring athlete.
And MLL, Major League Lacrosse.
Oh, Major League. Oh, okay. Maybe I should have said Mark Matthews for that one. Lyle Thompson. Yeah. No, Lyle's awesome. Like I have to pick him. Got to see him play live as well, and that was amazing. Again, like crazy great stick skills, and just it's like second nature for him watching him play. So yeah, definitely Lyle.
I'll give you a quick Lyle Thompson story. Everyone's seen him play in the NLL. He's fantastic. I mean, he's such an incredible player, great guy, great family, all the brothers, the mom, the dad. I mean, watching him play in the Laxgirl, the North American Invitational down in Onondaga with Thompson Brothers Elite, he played transition for them, played basically defense, and would just stay out. And watching him, it's unbelievable. The things that he can do, the offensive stuff we see all the time, and he'll go back to defensive transition, but watching him just dominate a game from one end of the floor to the other, it's unbelievable. And so fun watching, getting to hang out with her mom. She's just amazing, great woman, great lacrosse mom, and their dad, Jerome Senior, has played in that tournament, and his uniform number when he plays for Thompson Brothers Elite is 2 4 22 74.
Wow.
6 numbers long, because that is 2 is Miles, 4 is Lyle, 22 is Heine, and 74 is Jeremy. So it's just all together. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, no, one more league to touch on, the WPLL.
Oh, no, that's so hard. That's not fair. Okay. Well. So I have to give out a shout out to Karen Mubo because so she just got named the head coach at George Mason University. So that's really, really cool. And I think it's hard to put underrated next to the name of a player who's, on Team USA or has played with Team USA, is coaching at the highest level, playing at the highest level. But I've got to see her play live too, and was just in awe of just how well she moved around the field. Really, really quick to goal, great teammate, great player. I think overall favorite player, got to be Kayla Trainer. I'm a big Kayla Trainer fan, have been since basically day one. So yeah, I think, Karamuko, Kayla Trainer, got to give a shout out to Liz Hogan because that is my friend, and Taylor Cummings, obviously because she's Taylor Cummings. So I have a lot of favorite players. I'm really bad at picking just one. It's impossible.
I'm a big Taylor Cummings fan too. I just think she's a lot of fun to watch, and I don't watch a ton of women's lacrosse because I'm just watching so much lacrosse all the time anyway. But I just think she's a lot of fun and exciting to watch it. When we were in Baltimore, I was like, "Oh, Taylor Cummings is over there," and I was too nervous to go and say hi to her. So I know next time she's around, I should probably have a chat with her. I go and talk to basically anybody else in the lacrosse world, so that was silly. But and I think. There are so many other favorite players we have from all the leagues at all the levels that we could go on for a while. But I'm going to wrap up by actually quoting Emily Hiltz, who just put in the Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective and experiences with us and for the work you do to share the game with so many young women.
Absolutely.
I think we all echo that.
Thank you so much for having me.